Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop, ready to start a new project, and it's in this case, and I have not looked in this case since it was brought in, and that it was brought in back in March 16th, 2022, and today is June 16th, 2022, so it's been sitting here 3 months, and I have not looked at it. Just kind of busy. And I'm opening up the case here to see what we have. And it looks like it is an Alvarez 2-point mandolin. These are dangerous. If you, you could use this thing for a battering ram. You get one opponent on this side, one opponent on that side, and you can take them both out. Yeah, it's pretty sharp there. I'm not exactly sure yet what it's in for. I'll have to read the paperwork and I'll let you know. I'm just looking it over kind of quick here. I can see the neck has had some issues over time. And if I was guessing, I would say that the bridge on this would have to be very tall because this neck is quite high off of the top, for one thing, and then the angle and all that. So I would say it would require a pretty tall bridge. These are just things I'm noticing. I don't know that any of them are a problem yet. Looks like the heel could be just a hair loose, but that's probably all was done at the time whatever was done to the neck. I can definitely see the neck's been worked on. There's no question. Maybe it's been reset. I don't know. So let me read up on this and see what we need to do to it, because right now I'm not 100% sure. Well, reading this list of what needs to be done, it looks like quite a list. Let me just read it to you. It looks like we need to wedge the neck, fix the underbow, fix the tilt on the fretboard, raise the bridge height. Looks to me like the bridge height would be pretty high right now to me. I mean, just looking at it, I can't really tell till I try stringing it up a little bit. And he wants a full setup and a new nut and something on truss rod. I don't know what I wrote that down for, but maybe I'll figure it out. And I estimated 4 to 6 hours. Well, I pretty much bet I underestimated that. Maybe he caught me at a weak moment. I try to stick to it though. That's what I told him. I don't come back and try to gouge him. So I'll try to stick to 6 hours. I don't see how I can hardly do that. There is a lot of underbow in this. There is a significant twist to this. So I'm pretty sure for the first thing, the fretboard's going to have to come off of this. I know that for sure. Then it's going to be figure out how to set it to the right height for the bridge. Oh my goodness. 4 to 6 hours? Like I said, he must have caught me at a weak moment. Maybe I thought I was faster back then, in March. We'll see. We'll figure it out as we go. My friends, as I'm looking through this case and things, looking for the bridge and things like that to figure out what I'm doing, I noticed he has 3 sets of strings in here. Now, I got to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not a fan of any of these, and I'm going to tell you why. And what I would suggest as an alternative. Now, this is my opinion, you understand, but as a mandolin player for a long time, I think I kind of know something about it. And that is, the first one is GHS, which GHS is good strings. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the GHS part. But this one is a bright bronze. They have phosphor bronze also, and I would recommend their phosphor bronze strings. And I think their A270, I think it is, would be the one I would recommend, which is their medium phosphor bronze. And I would recommend that. But this one is a PF270. This is a medium bright bronze. I'm not too sold on the bright bronze. Number one, they don't last very long, and they sound a little bit thin and tinny to my ear. So there you go. This one here is another GHS. Now these are the cryogenic phosphor bronze, and these are lights. Now on most mandolins, I don't recommend lights. Now if with the fact that he's had neck trouble here, the lights might be the way to go on this mandolin. I don't know yet. But typically I don't recommend lights on a mandolin. I typically recommend mediums. Now, I would recommend lights if it's a young person or a lady playing it and they're just learning and that type of thing. It might be easier on their fingers. But typically for somebody that's a seasoned player, I do not recommend lights. And I am not necessarily a fan of any coated strings. Now, these say cryogenic. That doesn't necessarily mean they're coated, I don't think. I think the cryogenic means they were frozen or something like that. I'm not too crazy about all the gimmicky stuff. Phosphor bronze, in my opinion, is the way to go. Or the LS250s, which are the silken steel, which really tone down a thin sounding mandolin. So I don't know how this one sounds yet, but the LS250s might be the way to go on this. And then this one is the Martin mandolin strings, the M400, and I only use these on like children's instruments and you know, really light instruments, because these are very lightweight strings also. And these are just an 80-20 bronze. They don't last that long. I don't recommend these either. So there you go. Just telling you what I think for what it's worth. The ones that I actually do recommend are always either phosphor bronze or the silken steel from you know, GHS. So, or from Diodario. Phosphor bronze from Diodario, GHS, either one of those is fine. From Diodario, the J74 or the J75, which is the heavier version of it. Or for the GHS, the A270, I believe is what it's called. So there you go. My recommendation in a nutshell. Now, looking at this baby, the first thing I notice is that the ebony saddle is kind of busted up there. You know, I don't know if he wants to go to deer antler or not, but I kind of think that wouldn't hurt anything. Just looking at this, I don't really see why we would need to raise this very much. It really does look like it's pretty tall to me. I mean, it's not crazy tall. It's not like overdone, but it's done enough, in my opinion. It's high enough. Now, the bridge does not match this top at all. I mean, it's not even close to matching. It's high in the middle and the ends are off the top of the mandolin. So this bridge would need to be reworked considerably to make it work on this mandolin. The neck is twisted quite a bit. Maybe you can see it compared to the plane of the mandolin. Let's see, which way is it twisted? I think it's lower on the treble side, so this is the treble side, and in my opinion it's much lower on the treble side. There's also a considerable underbow in it. So I got my work cut out for me on this thing, and I've got 6 hours to get it all done, so I guess I better get started. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take off this pick guard because it's kind of in the way for all the work we're going to have to do here, it looks like. So I might as well get rid of that right up front. And we'll see how well that goes. That part went easy, but I'm not so sure the rest of it's going to go all that easy. I don't know how they put the rest of it on there. It really doesn't look standard on the rest of it, so I am not sure how to get the rest of it off. I hope it pulls out with pins. There's 2 holes there on the inside there, but they're both filled with glue or something, epoxy or something. And wow, how am I going to get that off of there? And it's got to come off, I think, in order to me to do all the neck work I got to do on this thing. Boy, it does not seem like it wants to wiggle loose at all. Usually you can just kind of wiggle it like that. And there's 2 pins that stick in here typically, and those 2 pins just pop out. Not so much. So, let's see if we can slide anything in here and get those pins to decide to move. Nope. Not so much. Wow, that popped something. I hope I didn't break something. I don't know. There we go. It was glued by accident. I don't think it was intentional to be glued to that, but the glue had seeped through and glued it to the front, to the edge of the fingerboard there. Because there are the 2 pins, and those 2 pins go in the holes. I'm glad I took my time with that, and it did pop the glue loose, thank goodness. I think I got trouble right off the bat on this. First of all, this bridge, I mean, if you put it on this way, it's leaning forward way too much. If you put it on this way, in my opinion, it's leaning back way too much. So the angle on the feet is just really bad. I'd much rather have it angling back than forward, but even that, just only a tiny amount. This is pretty good angle. I'd say it's almost 10 or 15 degrees. The second part of the problem with this bridge is that it's sitting right here on the high spot in the middle of this top. Now this is an exceptionally arched top. Typically the arch is not this pronounced. This is very high right in the middle, and then it drops way down. More than you can probably tell on the screen. And let me see if I can give you some idea. This is a very high arch. I'm going to guess that it's a half inch, a full half inch, down to the sides, which, typically the whole top is only roughly a half inch thick, maybe 5/8 thick at the most. So this one's dropping off quite a bit. Just when you figure just the top itself is a half inch drop. So this had to start out as a much thicker piece of wood to do that. The customer's talking about the neck angle itself, and it's a little hard to tell how to set that up. But right now, with the bridge all the way down, I mean, it seems like the neck angle itself would have to be pretty close. I mean, it doesn't seem like the neck angle would be that far off. In fact, in order to get a little bit of string clearance here, and I'm just doing kind of a rule of thumb here, you understand. I don't really have an absolute black and white method for this, but right at the 12th fret there, I've got my pick under the straight edge. Now, with that, typically my strings are sitting on the bridge, and I'm about a full 1/16 inch below that right now, so I'd have to raise this up quite a bit. I don't think I want to change the angle of that neck very much. Doesn't seem like the thing to do to me, although that's what the customer asked for. It really does not seem like the thing to do would be to, in other words, I don't think I want to increase this angle and raise this up. You can probably see it better with this solid ruler. I don't think I want to do that, because this is definitely over that, and especially when you figure, a little bit of string clearance there, it's definitely over that. And I'll just move this back here. You can see I have to raise this up a good 1/16 of an inch, if not more. So, it seems to me like this would already be tall enough. What do I know? Well, I'm going to talk that over with the customer a little bit and see what he says about that. But I am going to start trying to take this off of here, because this neck is at an angle for sure, and he does want the angle fixed. And we can do that. Plus, we've got underbrow issues, so we do need to take this fingerboard off regardless, I think. Well, for you, I'm sure it just seems like seconds, but for me, it's been a few days that I have been away from working on this mandolin. I have my homemade removal tool heating up here. I use this for removing bridges and fingerboards and anything that needs to be heated up and separated. And this will soften the glue, I hope. So that's what we're going to do, or at least attempt to do. It's up to 170 degrees already. It goes up pretty fast. So what I'm going to do is iron this fretboard until it gets really hot, and hopefully the glue will get soft, and then I can go through here and separate it. Sometimes it goes easy, and other times not so much. Well, I just applied the heater to the fretboard just now. It's up to 366 degrees, and it's going to climb up to around 420 or so. And I thought I might as well go ahead and put it on there, and it'll be heating up both things at once. I try to keep it in the center so I don't melt the plastic around the edges of the binding. You know, I try to keep the heat away from that part as much as possible, but you know, it just is what it is when it comes to something like this. It's a totally destructive process. People think, oh, just take it apart, just do this, just do that. Well, yeah, but you're breaking it when you're taking it apart. Every single thing on an instrument, when it has to come apart, you're basically breaking it. There's no zippers. Anyway, that's what we're doing here now. We're getting ready to break this fingerboard apart from the neck. And I hope I can get it apart. I hope it'll come apart easy. I'm going to start heating this up. We're up to 430 degrees now, which is not unusual. These things will go a little bit past their normal and then they drop back down, and it keeps it around 420 overall. Unlike a standard thermostat, this doesn't just kick on and off. It stays on pretty much the whole time, and it just tries to maintain the 420, which is really nice. There we go. Look at that. Boy, that couldn't have been much easier so far. Let's just hope it stays that way. That went in really nice and easy on that side anyway. Will it go in nice and easy on this side? I don't know. Doesn't seem like it. Get this knife real hot and try that again. You really need to have 3 hands. It's just 2's not really enough to work on instruments. I think luthiers should just be given 3 hands. Yeah, it's going to come apart fairly easy compared to some I've done, I can tell you that. Sometimes you can't get the knife back out when you get it in there. That's the other problem. What happens is the glue softens up and it kind of sticks to your knife, and then you got trouble getting your knife back out. When I say it's coming apart easy, it's all relative, meaning that it's easier than, you know, not coming apart, but it's not easy either. I mean, I'm pushing pretty darn hard, and it's still quite a bit of work, but at least it is coming apart. It'd be really easy if it would just come back out after you stick it in there. It just won't come out for nothing. Yeah, if I had just a 3rd hand right now, it would just make this so much simpler. And you might think, well, put it in a vise or something, but you know, a lot of that is less helpful than you might think. I've got several vices, but all of them clamp onto the neck, so there's really no good way to hold it. And you know, to have something hold it by the body, you're asking for trouble because it's going to break it. It just kind of is what it is. There's other ways to do it, I'm sure, but for some reason it feels like it's getting harder and harder the further I go. Well, I'll try using 2 of them and putting the other one in from the other side or something. Maybe that'll work. I'll try using this bigger one. Maybe it'll do better. Who knows? Well, it would, except for the blade keeps spinning on me. Try to heat it up pretty hot before I put it in there. It only takes a few seconds to heat this up. Sort of working and sort of not. The little one seems to work overall better. And if I could just have one more hand, it would already be off of there if I had one more hand. I guarantee you it would. It might as well give up because it's already lost the war. But it's going to fight to that last battle. There we go. Whew. I won, sort of. I'm wore out, but I won. It came off real clean, real nice. Now we're going to see if we can figure out why this thing has so many problems, like so much underbow and so much twist and all that stuff, and we're going to try to straighten all that out. Well, the truss rod that's in here, I mean, I don't know, it just doesn't look like much of a truss rod to me, the way they did it. It's really, really, really rusty down in there. I mean, I don't know if you can see the rust, but it's really rusty. Crusty rusty. They only have, like, this is the only spot really that the truss rod's pulling against, because that's the only place it's blocked off. See, I typically block off the whole thing, and in addition that also adds strength, you know, and then the truss rod's pulling up on that middle. So I may cut all this out of here and put one solid piece in there, and I might even take the truss rod out if I get all that out, and maybe look at the truss rod and see if we can't bend it a little bit more. I'm curious to what caused these two big dark or deep gouges in there. I know I didn't do that with my tool going in this way. Those are plunged in this way. I wonder what caused that. Looks like a screwdriver. It looks like somebody took a screwdriver and tapped a screwdriver in there for some reason, which makes no sense. Oh, one of them's over that one hole though, which is kind of weird too. Maybe they did that to tighten up that pin so it was tighter in that hole. I don't know. You see lots of puzzles on these things when you take them apart. Neck, yeah, the neck still looks a little bit lean this way, but not too bad. I wonder if this thing could be part of the problem. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it would be about right. I'll have to get into it real deep and see what I can figure out. By the way, if you're keeping score, it took me 15 minutes to take this fingerboard off from the time I turned my heater on. So from the time I turned it on, which of course it was still cold at that point, to the time I finished getting it off of here, it was 15 minutes, perhaps even just a little less than that. I'm just about ready to try to flatten the neck out on this mandolin. When I say flatten it out, it is flat. It's at an angle. In other words, it's like this to the top. I want it to be square to the top, but it's like this. So this little rig I've got here helps me determine just how bad it is. So if I slide it down to where it just touches, I can see I'm about an 1/8 inch high here. So it's touching on this side, but I'm about an 1/8 inch high there. So let me slide it down. It's touching, and I'd say just about an 1/8 inch or real close to that. And, you know, let me double check that these boards are, you know, I've got them flat on the sides here. There's not much more that I can do there to flatten them out. And they're the same thickness. And if I look across the boards, I can see that they're really very parallel with one another. So, I mean, like, they're not running this way and that way. So with that in mind, if they're in parallel, then this should be pretty much equal on both sides. And as you can possibly see there, it's about an 1/8 inch high on this side here compared to the side that's touching. So anyway, that's my predicament there. It's not terrible, but it just needs to be addressed, and so that's what we're going to do right now. So, you know, in analyzing this a bit more, I really don't have to take very much off. So like if I tilt this ruler where the space is equal on both sides, the amount of space here is probably only, I would even say it's less than a 1/16. It's probably only like a 32nd of an inch. So I don't have to take much off of this to get this flat. So the question is, how do you do that? Well, you could do it with sanding and stuff, but I don't know. I'm really good with my finger planes, and I think, for me, I think the quickest way is to do it with the finger planes and just check it, you know. So I'm just going to kind of knock a little bit off this way with the finger planes. Not going to knock off a ton. Probably looks like there's a lot more coming off than there is. Those shavings are very thin. And I'm fanning it out to the middle here and a little bit over to the edge. Just seeing what effect I've had so far. So I'm just checking it like this. Almost no effect so far. Alright, so I think maybe what I'll try doing now is maybe taking a scraper to it and seeing what I can do with that. I'm not a huge fan of these square scrapers, but in this case this might be the best thing to do. So I'm going to hold it and I'm going to put more pressure on the base side. And I'm trying to just level out what I've done there so far. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'd still say it's still crooked based on what I'm looking at there. The other thing I want to watch is that I'm not making a hump in the middle. And I do know that this has got a little bit of a hump in it already. So as I'm filing this, or working on this, I want to work on this back here more because there is an underbow in this too, and I want to get rid of that while I'm doing this. Now that underbow, unfortunately, is going to make the bridge even lower when I take this out. So that's why we're going to need a wedge. There's no doubt about that, because I am not going to take this neck back out of this thing. There's no telling what I would get into in that case. Necks on mandolins are difficult under the best circumstances, and this one's already been out once, so I don't want to do it again. Now you understand I didn't take it out the first time either, but I definitely don't want to take it out the second time. It's going to need quite a bit off this back here to get this tail down. It's still got quite a bow. I mean, it's really quite an underbow to this thing. I knew that. And I can try to glue it back with a little bit of back pressure too, but on a short mandolin neck, you can't get much out of it. Okay, I'm starting to get this down. There's a little bit of a hump in the middle here now. That just means that I'm starting to make some progress here in terms of getting it flat. It's a couple of sheets of paper now, probably right here, so that's about 8 thousandths, 10 thousandths, something like that. That's probably what it is right now. Alright, before I go any further, I'm going to go ahead and take this truss rod cover off and check all that too. Worst case, the truss rod's really loose. Best case, if it's worst case, if it's really tight, that means we really have a problem, because it should pull that underbow out of there if it's tight. So either way, we got a problem, but one way it's even worse. You can see that someone's messed with this truss rod a lot, and that nut is just rounded off. So that's not good. Yeah, it's just a comedy of errors. Just a comedy of errors here. So I guess it's at the right place, because I can't live with all this stuff. We're going to have to fix all of this. Let's see if my pliers are strong enough to even twist this. No, they're not, so I'll have to move on to something else. I've tried finding little things that would fit on this, and quite honestly, it's just very tight and nothing fits down in there. I got these baby vice grips here with the long nose, and I'm trying to see if they'll get on there and get tight, and they do, but yet they don't spin the nut. The nut is that tight. Wow, they just break off of there. So that's not good. I really don't know what I'm going to get that will put enough grip on there to turn that. Because it's stripped off round. It's really round. There's really nothing that's going to hold it. Trying to think of what I got that I could use. I'll let you know if I come up with something, because this is really a problem. Well, I think I made some movement here with my just pliers. I grabbed it really tight, and as tight as I can grab it, and I think I've made it. Yep, I've got it loosened up. That was really tight, and it's just wore out, so this nut's going in the trash. We'll figure out something better when we get this back together. That nut is going in the trash bin, except for the fact that I'm going to save it to check the threads on it. It'll be easier to check the threads on this, and then I'll get the proper nut for that. We got all kinds of other fun things going on here too, it looks like. There's a washer and then a spacer type deal. Let's see if I can get this out of here, because there's not much space under the truss rod. In other words, everything's kind of pinched. So I may have to cut some of this out of here to do a better job. Trying to get this spacer thing out, and it's caught under there too. I may have to get the Dremel tool out and just remove some wood down in here, because everything is so tight. You can't get a tool in there or anything. Everything's just crazy tight. You know, I don't know how much space we have. Let me find my calipers and see if we can measure that. So the way I'm going to check the depth on this to see if I can cut some out of there is I'm just going to use this to get a kind of a ballpark. That's 290 thousandths, 300, close to 300 thousandths. Checking that, 319. So it's down, and it really depends on how perfectly straight I can hold this. But 324, so we'll call that 325 thousandths thick, and we see how much thickness we have here. We have 580. So there's just no room to get a tool in here, and there's no space under the truss rod for the nut and the washer. So I'm going to just get a Dremel tool and open this up just a little bit, since we do have some thickness here. Okay, I've got myself set up here to do some cutting. Well, that should have opened it up quite a bit. Let's see if we can get this nut out of here now. Yep, no problem. And you can see how that's all cut back in there. Start analyzing this whole truss rod situation and see what we have to do. I kind of think we are going to take this truss rod out at least and see if it has the proper bend, because it needs to have some bend. Just a straight rod will not do anything at all. You know, I mean, you tighten a straight rod, you just got a straight, tight rod. That's all there is. Your rod has to have an underbow in it, and you have to straighten it out, and that's what straightens your neck. So I think we have that problem also. In fact, this truss rod is so rusty. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but it's so rusty, crusty looking down in there, which you just typically don't see that. I'm just gonna cut these things out and get this truss rod out, and we're gonna just take a look at it, because I think it's half of our problem. So we're gonna get that fixed too. Well, I'm down to the truss rod, but you know, I don't have that slot open up very well, so I'm going to try a chisel and see how that works. I hate to use the chisel going into that steel like that, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. You can kind of tell the wood you're cutting, because the neck is maple and the filler piece is mahogany. So as long as you're cutting out brown stuff, dark brown stuff, whatever that color is, then you can tell you're cutting the right stuff. You start seeing the shavings coming out white, well then you know you're a little deep in the sides, I mean. Looks pretty good so far. Trying to do it with, you know, without changing the instrument much. Keep the slot nice and tight, because we're going to have to fill it back in. I've got a lot more of this to do, and I think I'm just going to save time on the video, and I'll do some more of this just off camera, and whenever I get to a point where I think it's interesting, I'll turn it back on. Well, I've got most of the wood out of there, and I say most, meaning I think I got it all, but I don't know how I'm going to get this truss rod out because it appears to be in there really tight. And I don't know, maybe it's not, but maybe if I can get a hold of it with these pliers, maybe I can see it move a little or something. But nope, no movement there. Yeah, no movement at all, and I'm a little bit concerned about that. Maybe if I tap on the end of the truss rod to knock it that way, maybe that'll loosen it up a little bit. You just got to try certain things until you succeed. I'll tap on this wood to keep from breaking the threads, and it's probably just going to bust my wood. Nope, it moved it back. It definitely moved it back to the back of the slot. So that was a good thing probably to do. Now let's see if I can get in here and the pliers on it. Now that it's moving, maybe I can get it out of there. I cannot seem to get a grip on this to pull it up at all. I would think it would come up, and I can't get anything under it. Everything it's so deep that by the time you get your screwdriver down there, you have no prying up ability. It's just pushing it one side to the other. I don't know if the slot's still too tight or if it's all that rust that's got it locked in there. I don't know what the problem is, but it does not want to move, it doesn't seem like. Trying these smaller pliers, I don't think they're going to help. The big ones get a pretty good grip on it, but I can't, I mean, it wiggles a little bit now, which is something it didn't do before, but it still doesn't seem like it's coming up at all. I don't know if I can shave any more off the edges here and make it happen or not. I'm getting some brown wood there, so maybe there's some more here that's keeping it in there. Yeah, well, I'm going to keep doing more of that. I'll show you what it looks like when I make some progress. I took the Dremel tool and ground back just a little bit there, and then I drove this way some. And what I'm doing is I'm making a slot where I can get my pliers in here with this back a little bit. I thought maybe that would help give me some more leverage. So just tap this back just a little bit, like that. And then see if I can get the pliers down in there. And then grab a hold of it really tight and wiggle it and maybe get it to come up that way. It's definitely getting more movement, and it is coming up a little bit, but it's just really tight down in that slot, and I suspect all that rust has kind of got it locked in there. Not to mention, I think there was, there's probably still a little bit of wood in there maybe. I tried to get it all out, but I've cleaned it up as best I can, but it still seems to be a little bit tight, and it might be some little chunks of stuff wedging in there as it's trying to pull out. So there's a lot of things working against me, I think. Here's some brown wood I just found that I didn't see before down in here. That might help a little bit, but this is at the other end, so it won't help all that much on lifting that far end. Just keep trying, that's all I can do. I can see maybe a way to get a hook under here now. Maybe I can get under there and pry it up a little bit. I can pry while I'm lifting with the pliers, maybe. Yeah, I've got that wore off there now. The pliers have wore a spot on the metal that's not helping. It's making it come off easy. It's moving some, but it's not going to go without a fight, I can tell. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I put some of this Be Good oil down in there. So I figured the oil and the The combination of the oil and the wax might help me get this out of here. I'm going to push this back down now to get that oil and wax down in there. I don't figure it will hurt anything, but you never know. It be my luck it'll cause the wood to swell up or something. Uh-oh, broke off my dental tool there. Yep, that's what happens when you try to do this kind of stuff. If it just gets this far end moving, I think it'll come out of there, but you got to get one end of it moving first. There it is. Popped it out of there finally. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's definitely tight. Now I got to get it pulled back. What I'll try to do is get it up on top of this. There you go. And now I can slide it, I think, or tap it back with a hammer. I think we got it now. All right, so and if you look there, see how perfectly straight that is? That rod is absolutely 100% straight. Now, how will that pull a bow out of a neck? It can't do it. When you're pulling on a straight rod, all you're getting is a straight reaction. It does nothing, absolutely nothing. So this rod has to have an underbow in it, and when you pull on it, that pulls the middle up. That's what you need. It's absolutely, this truss rod is absolutely worthless. Now, it may have straightened out due to all the pressure and things that people have put on it, but I doubt it. I kind of think it would have gone back to its curl if there was any curl in it. It's perfectly straight. So we'll work on all that, and I'll show you how I do that.